All right, welcome into another episode of KT Sports Tonight, as we so call it when it's just me on here. Everyone's got the day off today. They're out enjoying the incline in weather that we're going to get of nice weather. The sun is coming back, 70 degrees in the forecast, but I'm no meteorologist. However, that is what my KCTV5 weather app does say. So yeah, everyone's off today. It's just me. We're going to hang out and talk some Royals, talk some KC Current, talk some Jayhawk baseball, ranked in the top 10 with a big series on deck this weekend. We are going to start, of course, with the boys in blue, who have a very, very, very big game tonight because they've been playing so well for the last few weeks. Currently riding a 5-game winning streak. And MLB, the Major League Baseball, has taken notice. They're getting shout-outs on their main Twitter account, on all their social media. The boys are playing some ball. If only they could have scored one more run yesterday, and it would have been 2 straight days of free Hawaiian Bros lunch at select locations across the KC Metro and more. That's, I think, been the funniest part of all of this is if you've been keeping up with this. If you don't know, I'm just going to fill you in right now. Hawaiian Bros and the Royals have partnered to run a promotion this season where after the Royals score 6 runs, the next day it's a free plate of their like classic meal or whatever. I've never had Hawaiian Bros, but now I might have to try it the day after the Royals score 6 runs, so maybe their promo is working. The lines are down the parking lots. They like everyone wants this free Hawaiian Bros. It's a great deal. You get a free lunch, and all the Royals have to do is score 6 runs. I can't help but think, like, if the Hawaiian Bros CEO like looked back, like when they were making this deal, and they were like, the Royals, known for their pitching and not being able to score runs very well, sure, let's run this promo. And now the Royals, the boys have been playing some ball. They've been scoring 6 runs in quite a lot of their games this season, and it's caused a lot of lines outside the Hawaiian Bros drive-thru. They have drive-thru. I think they have drive-thru, which I just think is the funniest part in all of this. So fun little story for you if you haven't been paying attention to the Hawaiian Bros aspect of the Royals season so far. But yeah, Royals score 5 runs last night, so just 1 shy. They did score 6 the night before, so it would have been 2 in a row, but you can't have free lunch every day, I guess. But those 5 runs, just another example of how hot the Royals have been hitting lately. And you know, when it comes to what's been contributing to that, I can't help but look back and just point out, like, I understand it's hard to feel down about your team when they start the season horribly, because they did. They had the worst record in baseball not even 3 weeks ago. It was unfortunate to watch. You know, fans were regretting paying that $100 for Royals TV, and then they run the promo deal for $45 because things are going so bad, and it's a special deal till May 10th or whatever. Mark Palace and I talked about that on here on Monday, if you missed that. You know, I understand it's so easy to feel really down about baseball because they play games almost every single day. And when you watch your team lose and lose and lose, and then they just end up having the worst record in baseball, like, it's defeating and it's not fun. I totally get that. However, it was the beginning of the season, and these guys had some things to figure out. We were obviously hoping that they were going to start the season a little bit better, simply because so many guys in their starting lineup had absolute crazy runs in the World Baseball Classic, literally right before the season started, towards the tail end of spring training. You know, Maikel Garcia, who hits leadoff, World Baseball Classic MVP. He and Salvi, the captain, both win as part of Team Venezuela for the first time ever. And then, of course, Team Italy, or Team New Jersey, as I like to call it, as a New Jerseyan myself, an Italian myself, Jack Caglione and Vinny Pasquantino, you know, making headlines for just their fun antics and what they were doing on the diamond for Team Italy. And then, of course, Bobby Baseball making headlines as part of Team USA, and like half the country outside of Kansas City realizing, oh, shoot, Bobby Witt Jr., really good at this shortstop thing. Yeah, which we knew all along, of course. So, yeah. I think coming into the season, fans were expecting more, and rightfully so. You can't blame them, especially because, you know, we started to see kind of some flashes late in the season last year when things didn't matter, and in the World Baseball Classic. It's defeating when the season starts the way that it did for the Royals. But like I said, it was so early. This team was figuring things out. You can be a bad team in April. You can't be a bad team past April. And I think the Royals are on that path. At least it seems they are. And they're kind of proving to everybody that they are so far. Winners of 5 straight. They take game 2 against the Guardians 5-3 last night. And they rally back. They get on the board first. Salvi drives in Michael and Bobby in the very first inning. And then Stephen Kolek in his very first start of the entire year, because he's coming back from rehab. And then Noah Cameron, the St. Joe native, he's dealing with some lower back tightness, so he misses his scheduled start in that rotation. And Stephen Kolek gets, called to get his first start in quite a bit for the Royals, first start of the year. He was 1-2. That was his record for the Royals coming in as a starter. And his only blemish on the night really was a 3-run homer. And that was the only score that was allowed yesterday by the Royals. So good on Stephen Kolek for that. He had some great things to say post-game. He actually talked about how his relationship with his catcher, Carter Jensen, the Kansas City kid, Parkville's own. He said that, Carter's faced them, the Guardians, earlier this season. So he knew the lineup. So he kind of relied on what Carter was reading, in addition to the stuff that he himself had been working on. So I thought that was a cool little shout out to his catcher there after the game. Shout out for the KC kid, Carter Jensen. And yeah, like I said, it's the only blemish of the night is that 3-run homer. And, they score that after the Royals go up 2-0, and then they're down 3-0 or 3-2. And then 2-run homer by Michael Massey. Michael Massey smashed it out of the park. And that kind of puts them back in front. And then they get an insurance homer in, I believe, the 5th inning. Numbers, they're hard. But yeah, that was a good performance, because a lot of times I feel like when we've watched the Royals in the past, we watch them, they scored early, and then they go down. Oh, we're going to have to get more pitching in there. They kept Kolek in. He pitched 6 innings and did some solid work. And he was kind of on fire to start, other than that 3-run homer. So yeah, good to see the Royals kind of rally back from that, and then not let it get too close for comfort in the end. They always had control once Michael Massey got him back in front. So fun night out at the K for that. A little bit cold. I think tonight's going to be a little bit warmer. Tomorrow feels like a good day for game 4, because this is a 4-game series, not a 3-game. So they did not clinch the series win yesterday. The worst they can do now is tie it if they let the Guardians win tonight and tomorrow. But obviously the Royals getting this win tonight over the Guardians would be massive. Let's just go over the AL Central standings super quick, because coming into this, the Guardians and the Tigers both tied in first place in the AL Central. They currently still are, however, Tigers and the Guardians both at 18-19 on the season. Yeah, that's right. The AL Central, everybody is below 500. So this is very much anybody's division still, and why this would be so huge for the Royals to keep winning when they have 10 straight division games. Because first they're playing the Guardians right now. They host the Tigers this weekend, and then next week they're going to go and take on the White Sox on the road. 10 straight division games, 3 straight AL Central opponents. So racking up wins over the course of these 10 days, very important for the boys in blue. Tigers and the Guardians still knotted at 18-19 on the season, both tied in first place. The Royals and the White Sox right behind them, tied for second, just half a game back at 17-19 on the season. The Twins just below them at 16-20. How about the AL Central, guys? But yeah, that just puts into perspective. The Royals are half a game back from first place. If they can win tonight, Royals are in first place. I think that sounds pretty good. So this is a very big game tonight, obviously, for the Royals. And then who knows? Maybe if they win tonight, maybe they can go for the sweep tomorrow, a 4-game sweep. But yeah, so first pitch is at 6:40 tonight. You can tune in to KCTV5 Sports at 6 to hear from the team a little bit, because their broadcast is going to start in about 20 minutes. So we'll be able to hear from, Quatrero and some other guys before the game, see how they're feeling against ahead of what like I said, is going to be a really important game going forward. And it's a Wednesday night. No better place to be than the ballpark. Where are you going to be? Just go out to the ballpark. But yeah, so that's it on the Royals. Revenge on Mother's Day. What could that possibly mean? I know Brad and Lauren at our 5 o'clock newscast had some fun when I told you guys that we were going to be talking about how the KC Current are seeking revenge on Mother's Day. No, it has really nothing to do with Mother's Day, but it's just kind of a fun headline because it makes you wonder. The KC Current are back at home this Sunday to play an NWSL game for the first time in many weeks. They have not played an NWSL game at their home stadium of CPKC Stadium since, I believe, early April. And that is because they had their, mid-season international break. They hosted the Teal Rising Cup, but however, season ticket holders did not get automatic tickets to that. So a lot less fans there for that. This, you expect, is going to be a sellout like it always is of 11,500 because that's just what the Current do and that's what the fans do. But this Sunday, the Current are hosting a Mother's Day matchup with the Chicago Stars bright and early at 11:30. So you can go have breakfast with your mom, take her to a KC Current game, and then go have lunch after and dinner and whatever else. So kind of a fun little day out in ahead of the River Market area in the Riverland. They are hosting the Chicago Stars, who handed Kansas City its first loss of the season back in March. And, the Current, it was only their second game of the season, so we know how things have gone for them since. They already have more losses this year than they did all season long last year. They let go of midfielder Claire Hutton, who was an absolute star, captain on the national team, very young, up-and-coming, rising star. It hurt to see her go. I think there's been a lot of adjustment on the team. Some new faces, some departures, and obviously a new head coach. And Vlatko Ananovsky now in a different position with the team as their global sporting director. So it's been a season of change. It was an off season of change for the Current, and that's definitely been reflected in how they've been playing for the first part of the season. But another thing to remember is they only had Temwa Chewinga come back recently, about a month ago. And she's only been playing only so much time because they are trying to be sparing, with her injury situation and just kind of easing her back in. They don't want to overload her. Obviously, the back-to-back Golden Boot Award winner and league MVP is going to be someone you want down the road because they didn't have her down the road last year, and then they lost in the first round of the playoffs. So, something to remember there when we only see Temwa maybe playing one half. It's all for good reason. That's something that's been stressed by head coach Chris Armas quite a bit. When asked about her status and everything. But they've also been dealing with just some injury stuff outside of Temwa's situation as well. Michelle Cooper was out for a while. It's been a rough start to the season for the Current. Like we said, not used to their undefeated, perfect winning ways that we got used to last year. When they were the 1 seed in the postseason. So there was a lot of adjustment, I think. But, Chris Armas in his press conference this week was talking about something that stuck out to him that I thought was interesting was how much physical human contact he's seeing within the women on the team before good things happen, like goals or a big save. Like, he's just seeing them high five and hug each other for things when nothing big happens. And that's the kind of stuff that builds your chemistry. And he believed that directly correlates to winning. So I thought that was an interesting note by him as they continue to improve because, fans can be up in arms about his hiring and picking him as the new head coach. But, it's not like the team stayed exactly the same way it was last year. This isn't the same team. So a lot of moving pieces for the Current, and it seems like they might be starting to figure some things out. They come back and get a big road win in North Carolina. So they're coming off a win, which is always good. You always want to be coming off a win and then getting the chance to defend your home turf and have that extra motivation of wanting revenge against the team that handed you your first loss of the season. And that first loss, I think, was when everyone in the fan base was kind of like, oh no, this season might not be going as smooth as last year, because they won their first game, but it was also here at home, which, as we know, CPKC Stadium is a fortress by design. Best home field advantage in NWSL probably. So yeah, I think this is kind of the perfect stage for a very good Sunday. It seems like all the pieces are falling into place for the Current to get a big win. They are currently 11th in the NWSL. Not what they're used to. They are below 500 as well, 3-4. No draws, just 3-4. So yeah, big. There are some mothers on the team. The players are gonna have their mothers there, so it's gonna be a special Mother's Day matchup out at CPKC Stadium. So that'll be fun, and obviously, if the Current can get that win, get back to 500, a 4-4 record on the season, that would be very ideal. Because now it feels like, they've got to start. If they're not figuring it out yet, there's not a lot of time left to do so. So, KC Current back at home on Sunday for the first time in quite a bit. That'll be a fun one. And we're going to end tonight with KU baseball, because they're, if you haven't heard, ranked number 7 in the country. You can hear from head coach Dan Fitzgerald himself coming up on KCTV5 Sports at 6 o'clock. But I'll tell you a little bit about his press conference today. One question that stuck out to me was, well, two actually, I should say, but they were kind of very similar. One was, did you imagine? So for backstory, Fitz was hired 4 years ago. Actually, his press conference, his introductory press conference, was the first thing I ever covered as a reporter out in Topeka, fresh out of college. It happened like literally a week, like not 3 days after I got there and I started working. So that's a fun little connection between Fitz and I. So it's been 4 years. And the program has just gone up every single year. It starts from the bottom. That's where the program was. KU baseball was not nationally respected. And they still, I think, have to earn that. I wouldn't say they're nationally respected just yet, because I think they have to go out and earn that in the postseason, and establish themselves going forward as a team that can do that based off a bunch of JUCO transfers, because that's what this team is built of, JUCO transfers. And that's something that Dan Fitzgerald has always said he very much believes in, that development there. So that's a little interesting part about the roster right there, in case you didn't know, in their starting lineup. If you go back and look where all of them started college, pretty sure they were all in JUCO. So as I was saying, he was asked, did he imagine this, that this would be the case? They were ranked number 7 in the country in early May when he took the job 4 years ago. And he said that, he doesn't even pay attention to rankings. The only reason that he pays attention to it is because he has 2 young sons, and they make him check every Monday on their way to school, which I thought was a cute little story. But, he's always said he's not a guy that looks too much at next weekend's series or the series from 3 weeks ago, other than to learn from mistakes that happened, obviously, and build from good stuff. But he said he never pays attention to that stuff. And actually, kind of ties into the next thing, was that, so they have a big-time series this coming weekend with number 15 West Virginia, who is the next best team in the Big 12. That's right. KU baseball is like 4 games ahead of them in the Big 12 standings. They're, as of right now, the favorites to win the conference, of course, which would be awesome for them. But they have a big-time series coming up this weekend, a ranked matchup, top 15 matchup, 2 top 15 teams. And it's going to, I think, prove, if they can win this series, it's going to prove, yes, they are a top 8 team in the country and they should host all the way through and then make the College World Series, because that's how college baseball works. If you're a top 8 team in the country, you are expected to make the College World Series. You have home field advantage. You're heavily favored. And that's just kind of how it works with baseball every year. We don't often see huge upsets in regionals. Sometimes in super regionals, not so much in regionals. So at this rate, KU is pretty much favorite to host a regional, go from there, which would be historic. I don't believe it's ever happened in program history. But yeah, I think winning the series this weekend is going to do a lot in terms of proving that they are a team that can compete with the top 8 teams in the country, because that's what you got to do when you get to the College World Series. Right now, I wouldn't call the Big 12 the toughest baseball conference in the country. I think the SEC very much has that. I think in the Big 10, UCLA is absolutely dominating just everybody right now, and they're, in most people's eyes, without a doubt, the number 1 team in the country. So if you haven't been paying much attention to college baseball this season, that's a little fun fact. UCLA appears to be the team to beat. And then, of course, SEC baseball is going to SEC baseball as per usual. And, on Monday, when Mark and I were doing this show, we were talking about how, like I said, KU baseball is just not a team that has earned that national respect yet. If they can win this series this weekend and host and keep it going and make the super regionals, make the second weekend of the postseason, that's going to do a lot going forward in terms of how other teams across the country view them. Because no one thinks of KU baseball in terms of the top baseball teams in the country. They are a gritty, very fun to watch team that has these crazy come from behind wins all season long. They're very entertaining if you haven't gone out to a game. The student section has absolutely bought in. Dan Fitzgerald talked about that as well today, which I thought was funny because, for reference, the student section used to be sat above their dugout, their home dugout. They switched that this year, which I personally think is by design, because last year when KU baseball started to get really good, not as good as they are this year, but started to get really good, the students were just crazy. They were rowdy. They were going, there were a lot of things being shouted that probably didn't need to happen in a family-friendly environment like that, because there are children there. But that was happening. And I honestly just think that they were so loud and rowdy that they were like, we don't want this on our home dugout anymore. They're going over there. So that's where they are now. They're above the visitors' dugout. So I think that's very much by design. Obviously, I don't have proof of that. I'm making an educated guess, and I think most would be inclined to agree. But because of that, Fitz said he never really paid attention to the crowd, because the only time he's leaving the dugout is when there's a pitching change or, a challenge or anything like that. And in those types of serious situations, he's not trying to look at the student section. That's going crazy. But now that they're on the other side of the stadium, he can see them a lot better, and he has a newfound appreciation for the excitement that's been brought to the team from the students. You know anything about KU basketball, you know what the students are like. So they're rowdy, they're fun, and they love their baseball team because their baseball team is apparently really good. So exciting up-and-coming series for the Jayhawks this weekend. Like I said, it's going to be a big test, and we will have you updated on KC Sports Tonight this weekend. Mark Palos and Maria Campbell will have you covered for that. That's going to do it for KT Sports Tonight. I think this is our fourth time in recent memory doing this. Always an adventure. Thanks for watching, and tune into KCTV5 Sports at 6 and 10 tonight. And as always, every weekday here at 5:30. Have a good one.